All right, I'm just wanted to do some recordings of OSDCloud. I've just booted up my HP ProDesk 600G3, so it's an older unit. As you can see here, I just got it, and it still has legacy mode enabled in the BIOS. I'm not going to bother with the BIOS settings because my scripts will take care of that for me. So I'm going to go ahead and boot to my OSDCloud USB stick, which will just take a moment. And then we will get started. Let's see. In the meantime, I'm going to go over and look at my browser and pull up some stuff on the GitHub. Let's see here. And let's see, Personal Edge. I'll have to see how I can figure out how to make this work here. There we go. Okay. Alright, so here is starting OSDCloud. Kind of a weird format, but it's all good. So let me go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. A little easier to see. Alright, so it's just initializing at this point. Yeah. Alright, so here you can see it's posted the information here about my model and the TPM version. And let's see here. My BIOS version is 2.37. Alright, we're going to go ahead and start OSDCloud GUI. I'm just going to show a couple features, and then I'll actually run this through a ZTI instead of a zero touch. All right. And it'll launch the GUI here in a second. It senses that it's an HP device and makes sure it has CMSL installed. So because it's an HP device, it has this extra menu. It sees that it can update the BIOS. It sees that there is a firmware update available, and then there are different options you can do to have it run HPIA during the online phase or during setup complete. During setup complete, there's also these other options now that you can run. And then these are the standard ones that were here previously as well. I'm going to go ahead and X out of here. And then I'm going to actually run a script I run on these devices. So I'm setting these up for charity. So I have a script. I'm just going to IRM it so you guys can see what it is. Now this is out on GitHub, so you can steal any code you want. But what it's going to do is I have a special function, so it's going to create a setup complete file that I want triggered that does special things on my flash drive. And then it will restore the original one that's on there later. Let's see, so if it's not in, so it will create a setup complete file that will run after things are done, and so this, which will call out and run the script again. So when it's not in WinPE, it will go ahead and download and put a PDF on their desktop. It's going to run this other script from someone else's GitHub that it was supposed to change a few things, like remove the chat auto install, and then I'm running these different options as well on the devices. And this also tries to trigger the store updates. I've had not the best success on that. And then I'm setting the time zone. All right, and then it's also calling this other script that I will show you quick. IRM Win11.garytown.com. All right, so what it's going to do here is quite a bunch of different things as well before it actually triggers OSDCloud. Now this is getting a bit much, so I'll probably show you this in the browser later. Let's go ahead and get it started. So we're going to do hope.garytown.com. All right, so that's going to get OSDCloud started. It's pulling some functions down that I have out of my GitHub. It's creating my setup complete files that I have custom for when I'm loading things for volunteers. Now it did run a script to set a bunch of BIOS settings. So 7 of the settings were already what I wanted, and then it did change 4 of them. 11 are not found. So the script works on several models, and if the settings that I want aren't there, it just skips it. Now this is a script that's out on GitHub from John Anderson, and I just modified it a little bit to work for here. Here are all the different values I'm setting for OSDCloud. So I'm telling it to update the TPM, I'm telling it to run HPIA, and I'm telling it to update BIOS. And here is calling the actual OSDCloud command now. I'll go ahead and maximize that. You can see that I already have the Windows 11 ESD file on my flash drive, so it doesn't have to re-download that. So now it's going ahead and it is formatting the drive. And it will continue on with the process. Let's see. There'll be some longer lulls in a little bit here, and I can switch over and show you the scripts in the browser, which will be a whole lot easier to look at them. All right. So now it's copying. So it formatted the drives. It set the power to high performance just to speed up the process a little bit. And now it's copying the Windows image, the ESD file from my flash drive, over to the actual local drive, which is mapped to C. And that will take just a minute or so as it copies that 4 to 5 gig file over. So at this point, we can go ahead and take a look over here. So we'll go to C, and you can see the OSDCloud folder is there. And so far it has logs in OS. And it's copying the ESD file there. It's not complete yet, but you can see that it's going there. This folder here will get populated with more things along the way as we continue. And then a drivers folder will be created in the root as well. So looking at the ESD file there, you can see that it is 23H2, and here's the UBR 2861. I believe this is the January. It's either December or January build of 23H2. That is the latest one available through the Microsoft media downloader tool, which like if you went and like try to download Windows 10 or Windows 11, and you would get their little utility to build a ISO or a flash drive that is where we are pulling those ESD files from. All right. So it finished it. It's just doing a double check on the indexes. And now it's expanding that file. So let's go back here. We're gonna go, and you can see it's starting to populate the image onto the C drive now. And this typically takes a few minutes as well. The faster the storage, the better. This is an NVMe drive, so it's not too bad, but the hardware is older. All right, I'll close that for now. And let's see where we're at. It's getting there. I wish this bar would just kind of not go all the way over, and that they would just have it kind of stop here, but whatever. Or they could actually put like a percent operation percent. I'll have to talk to Microsoft about that. I'm sure they'll do that for me. I also did not do any checks, so I really hope I'm not way too quiet or too loud, but hopefully you can hear me. You can probably see my kids running through the back every so often. I hope that's somewhat entertaining as well. All right, so it just created, oh, all right, we'll get to that in a second. So it finished expanding, and then it's creating the BCD boot files information that it needs so that it can boot properly the next time it reboots. And it's creating these extra directories that can be used later. The driver pack, it found that it needed this driver pack automatically. But so then it checks the flash drive first for either the platform of the HP device or the corresponding soft pack number. And if it finds either, then it will just go ahead and DISM those in. So right now it's running the DISM file, or DISM process. Oh, not that one. I must have lost it. There we go. So it's going to go ahead and DISM those drivers right off the flash drive instead of downloading that driver pack, because I already have it staged on my flash drive, and this way it's getting DISM'd in WinPE. If you don't have it this way, what will happen is it will download the driver pack, and then during the next reboot, while it's in specialize phase, it will expand it and apply it in specialize. The problem with a lot of these is there's no way to expand them while in WinPE because they're like 32-bit executables. At least the older ones. The newer ones are 64-bit capable, are native, and they would work, but it's hard to write a process that checks that and then applies dynamically. Maybe in the future I'll work on something like that, but for now I found the most effective way for me is to take those driver packs and expand them into my flash drive, OSDCloud driver packs, and then you have to have a subfolder called DISM, and then vendor name, platform, and just dump it right in there, and then it will recurse through that platform folder. Hi Ella, you can go now. Oh man, that's funny. All right, let's see. And through some of the graphics drivers takes a little bit longer. Okay. So that's continuing. This will just take another minute or two. Um, one of the reasons I like to do this is it's not having to download the driver pack for one, so you save that time, and then it also saves that gig or so on the endpoint. So at this point, it's applied the driver pack. It's creating setup complete files that will get triggered later, and now it's adding different information into the setup complete files. So it's adding those options that I wanted, where it's going to run HPIA. It's going to update my TPM and BIOS. So here you can see it's actually already staged the BIOS update. So as soon as this thing reboots, it's going to start applying the BIOS update. And it did download the TPM update. And to apply the TPM, it has to disable the virtual. So it did that for me so that it will go ahead. And these functions are all built right in. Now it's going to install some modules so that they're there after it reboots. So it can continue to use these same functions that are in the OSD module after the reboot. There's extra modules that are being installed, so if you were doing like autopilot things, those would be there for you. Here it's installing HP CMSL. All right, it is going to restart. And in a moment, it will come back, and we should see a BIOS update. And if we, oh, there we go. That looks like I was expecting. All right, I'm going to go ahead and save us 10 seconds. Let that update. So this is one thing I like about running OSDCloud on these HP devices. It will go ahead and do all these things for me, so I don't have to worry about it. And by the time I'm done, it's fully updated on the BIOS, the TPM, the drivers, and Windows updates as well. So when I go to log in the first time, it's all set. Now it adds a substantial amount of time to do all that, but this would be like pre-user getting it, so I'd rather do it on the back end than have all this stuff come down from Intune after the end user gets it. I would take questions, but there's no one around right now. No one's joining my live stream, which is totally cool. I really just wanted to record this, and then people can zoom through it to see the parts that are interesting to them, or watch what's going on in the background. All right. BIOS. Oh, almost there. All right, complete. Reboot. All right, so now it's going to reboot back into the OS for the first time. So it will hit that specialize where it will be applying those drivers. It just usually takes a little bit longer after a BIOS update to come back to life as it's doing whatever it's doing. All right, here we go. I could see the monitor light just turned white, so it's got a signal. Yep, there we are. Sometimes what will happen is during this stage, I see my capture device disconnects as some of the drivers are getting applied. So I have to watch that and make sure that we could get that reconnected right away. Okay. Personal edge. Let's see. I'm just going to test. Oh, yep, sure enough. That works. All right, so we'll cut over here pretty soon to the browser. I'll show you some of these scripts and what they're doing. Any moment we should be seeing another script kick in, and you'll get to see some more interesting things. But this process always feels so much slower when you're actually watching it directly. All right, so right now it's actually configuring the video. So that's why there was a little blip. Sometimes like when I'm doing it on a laptop and I have a monitor connected, until that blip, I don't actually see any output from the device until the video drivers are loaded in properly. But I'm running on a desktop today and it's been working pretty good. So it does pull some of those updates directly down from the internet. So it does do checks before it enables these features to make sure that you have an internet connection, because it doesn't want to block you from still doing OSDCloud 100% offline, which you can still do. Just some of the features will be disabled and not able to pull down these updates. But then once you've got it online, you can go ahead and it will start pulling down Windows updates and things like normal. But that was one of the goals, is to make sure that you could still run everything needed to deploy the OS directly off the flash drive, and that is accomplished. There we go. All right, so now the on-attend file kicked off a script which is going to do a few things, but primarily, mostly the thing that we're looking at is it's updating the TPM. So you can see there it's small. We can look at the log later, but it did go through with the 3010. So it's going to reboot, and we'll see an update to the TPM happen in here in a moment. But it confirmed that it had CMSL there, 1.7.1, which is the current version. And then it ran the functions to update the TPM. So now we're going from TPM 1 to version 2. We'll see that screen here momentarily. Sometimes this is a point where it gets disconnected as well. There we go. It's doing the firmware update now. All right. This one goes a little faster, which is nice. We'll just bypass that 15 seconds. All right. Now is a very long period where we don't see a whole lot of change. what happens from time to time too is it will actually put the monitor to sleep because this takes so long. The device itself doesn't go to sleep, but the monitor will as it's doing all the updates, and basically it's going to be running everything that's in that setup complete, which can be quite a few things depending on the options you've picked, or if you're doing anything custom, like you could be installing apps and whatever else you want during this part of the process. The one bad thing is there's no visibility into anything. This is all you can see. Everything is happening behind the screen. I've tried to make it pop out from behind here, but I've been unsuccessful. Um, so there isn't really any good way to see what's going on at this point. So since this will take a while, I'm going to cut over. All right, so here is where I've got these things. So I will show you the first one that I called, which has a couple functions. So if it's in WinPE, it runs this function I have above, but then it's calling that other script that I'll show you in a moment. And then when it's done, before it restarts, it restores the original setup complete file. And then that setup complete file that it creates is basically it's just creating the couple files it needs so basically it's just starting these things, and then it calls this script again once it's in setup complete. And then, so it's basically running this stuff down here once it reboots and into setup complete. And so it's running all these other functions that are part of OSDCloud are part of my own functions. Oh, and I've got that running live too. I'll do a lot of testing with this one, so I'm not sure what I even have over in that one at the moment, but let's see, let's cut over to Win11. So here is where I'm setting which OS I want to run and install, and the addition and the activation. I'm setting a bunch of variables for OSDCloud. So I have it set to restart false. I do not want OSDCloud to restart it because I want to do things after, and then all my scripts will trigger to restart. I have recovery partition set to true, which is the default unless you're on a VM. But I want the recovery partition on a VM as well for testing. OEM activation, that will run a function that will try to pull the key from the hardware and activate it. Windows update drivers, Defender update. So these will all happen during setup complete. Setting the time zone will look at your IP address and try to set the appropriate time zone. This here is just making sure it doesn't prompt while it's clearing the disk. Setup complete. So shutdown setup complete is set to true. So once this stage of setup complete is completed, instead of rebooting into Ubi, it'll just shut down. This was a request by someone so that they could run OSDCloud, and then at this point have it shut down. They could box it up and ship it out, so then when it's turned on again, it starts right into Ubi. And then the Microsoft Update catalog drivers. So if you have devices that might not have driver packs, or you have driver packs but you are not designing them in while in WinPE, it will go ahead and pull down drivers from the Microsoft Update catalog and inject them while in WinPE just to make sure that you have the basics so that when you reboot, you have your storage and your network. All right, so here I'm setting the driver pack name manually. Just because I was doing certain tests. Most people wouldn't do that. I'm also testing then if this is an HP device by running this test HPI support. And if that's true, I'm going ahead and setting it to run the TPM update and run the HPI all. Now I had an issue on a specific, I have a one test device that does not do well. Um, I've got some hardware issues, so I just block that one from it. And then it will run the updates um, as well for the BIOS, which is what you already saw. Um, this is my script then for setting all the BIOS settings ahead of time. So when we first booted up, we saw that legacy support was enabled still. This script will disable legacy support and set it to secure boot along with several other things. So I'm calling this script, which creates the function manage HP, and then I'm setting the settings on HP devices. Down here, I have it just write out the variables so I know what's going on. And then it goes ahead and imports the OSD module, and then I'm starting it right here. So this is the command for doing it, and then it's pulling in all those extra variables ahead of time so it knows what to do as part of its instruction set. And then some other testing. I have CM trace in my boot media, so then I just have it copy local as well during my process. All right, so that's my script. That's out there. You can feel free to grab that and use that during OSDCloud. Let's just quick look back at our test machine. All right, so still just a moment. These are like some of the longest moments ever recorded in time. Let's see what other things are interesting. There has been a lot of changes to OSDCloud lately. Let me go ahead and bring some of that stuff up. Well, I'd highly recommend looking at the release notes for OSDCloud to see what's going on. So you can see what I just demoed earlier with the Start OSDCloud. A lot of those functions are not, if you were to do this today, you would not get those same options. Next time the module is updated, you will see that. But if you ran Start OSDCloud GUI Dev, which is where I do all my development work, all those features are available today. I'm just moving them to production, so the next time the module gets released, those will be in production and you can use those as well. But you can see the different things. So we've ran into an issue with the time zone where it worked for me, but not necessarily everybody else. So I've done some fixes, but unless people tell me it doesn't work in their time zone, I can't fix it because I can't test other time zones because I don't have IP addresses in other time zones. If you want to play with doing anything custom in your setup complete, I added a function that will create template files for you in your workspace so that you can then just run this function. It will create the templates and then you can go ahead and edit them. So let me just show you. So my area is here, and then let's see. So it's config, scripts, setup complete. All right, so it's going to create these two files. I would recommend just leaving this one alone, which is purely all it's doing is calling the PowerShell script. And then if you have any customizations, you can add it to this guy, which right now I just have it doing this just as a proof that it's running. So when I show the logs, oh, of course, because I'm sharing, you can't see this because I'm not sharing it. I'm only sharing. All right, let's see here. If I can display capture, properties, that looks right. Okay, so over here, It's creating the templates in your workspace, and then config script setup complete. And like I just said a moment ago without showing you, the setup complete file, the CMD file is purely just PowerShell. It's just calling PowerShell to run the setup complete script. So you can see here, see OSDCloud scripts setup complete. During OSDCloud, it's creating, um, it, what it does is when you create your flash drive through the OSB tool, or the OSDCloud tool, it's copying your setup complete files to the flash drive, and then during OSDCloud, it checks your flash drive. If you have the setup complete files there, it copies them to this location, and then it calls them during setup complete. And then what happens is that's calling the setup complete script, which right now I have it just writing stuff out, and then I have it writing out the path so you can see where it actually ran from, just as a proof of concept to show what it can do. So once you have this and you're like, oh yeah, I would like to add like maybe an app install or some other things, you can just take this template and start adding whatever you want between these lines here, and it will run those things during setup complete for you. Okay, let's see. Just let's check back at. Okay, just a moment. Still going. All right. Yeah, so I mean, at this point, I don't know if it's running HPIA, if it's running Windows updates, if it's running the drivers for Windows updates. It could be doing a bunch of things. That's the only downside of this, is this takes a while and there's no window into this until it's complete. And then you can look at the setup complete log, which will go through and show everything that happened during this point, which always just feels so much longer when you're waiting. But like if you start it and you go have lunch and you come back and like, oh, it's done. That was fast, but not like this. All right, let's head back to here and go through a few more things here. If you're playing with ARM64, I hope to get some more support for that in the future. I've just lost time to work on that. So I did have one successful run with one device I have. So I would imagine, though, in the next couple of years, as ARM devices become more popular, I'll invest more time in ARM. Let's see. This is very similar to that other function I showed above. This just creates it directly. If you already have a flash drive on your device, it creates it directly on the flash drive, and then you can edit it there. All right, so here are all the settings that were added to the GUI back in January, which I'm adding now into the GUI, the production GUI, the next time it's released. But this is where it's talking about the different HPIA options, the TPM update, the BIOS, and here is when it tells you it happens. So the BIOS update happens during WinPE. So when you're switching from WinPE into the full OS during that reboot is when it applies. TPM happens during specialize, and all the drivers happen during setup complete. Now, HPIA can also update your BIOS, so if for some reason you don't have it here, but you choose all, it will probably update your BIOS during setup complete. So there's a couple ways that will happen for you. Under setup complete things, these are all, that was the name I came up with for the menu because that is when all of it happens. So you can run Windows updates, and that will exclude drivers. You can run Windows updates that only includes drivers. Sometimes I find that this here can cause issues, so for troubleshooting reasons, I kept them separate. You can update Windows Defender updates, so this will update your platform and the definitions right away. Sometimes if you try to, you might have to run Windows updates a few times to get that to happen. But this just goes straight out, grabs the different files directly from the Microsoft and puts them in place. So this is apply key from UEFI. This is gonna try to look up your UEFI, your Windows key, and then apply that. And I've had pretty good luck with that working, especially on newer devices. Older ones, they don't really have keys, or Windows 8 keys. They don't necessarily activate Windows 11. When they've gotten kind of picky on what will activate Windows 11. So they seem more generous on updating Windows 10. So strange, weird story. I first installed Windows 11 and wouldn't activate. So then I just OSDclouded Windows 10 Pro and that activated. And then I reloaded Win11 Pro and then it activated. So I don't know why, or if it was a fluke the first time, or if by activating it under 10, it does something on the back end. I have no idea. You could also, in place, upgrade it from 10 to 11 if you get it activated under 10. Let's see. Oh, other cool things that have been added this year were support for your own ESD files. So before, we only supported WIM files that you could throw either ISOs or WIMs on your flash drive, and it would apply those. Now you could actually have different ESD files, and it will work with those as well. And SWM files, which was a request because apparently that is the format the Surface recovery images come in. So it will support those now, and those will show up under the drop-down menu in the GUI. All right, so speaking of the drivers, this kind of explains a little bit of how the dizming of drivers works. All right, that's still going. Just looking over, still says just a minute. All right, so the driver side, when on your USB under OSDCloud, under driver packs, under DISM, I'm gonna throw in my flash drive and pull that up so you guys can see it. It's gonna look for two different paths, either your package ID, which all of the driver packs will have, or the computer product. I haven't done much testing outside of HP, but it works great on HP. Hopefully, eventually, I'll get to look at other models or other vendors. But for now, if you got HP, it'll work pretty slick for you. So let me pull up my flash drive here. It will work with other vendors. You just, I've confirmed that with both Microsoft and Samsung. You just have to put exactly the right, so you have to get the manufacturer. So like the one I had was like, I think it was, yeah, Samsung was Samsung, but then the computer product was like this really weird name with spaces. So once I put that in there just the same, it did work. So you just have to look up those different things for your vendor, and it'll work just fine for you. All right, so let me show you the flash drive here. Display capture. All right, let's switch over. So we're gonna go back to here, OSDCloud. All right, so I've got my driver packs. I've got my DISM folder. Oh, I guess it's worked on Lenovo too, so that must be the platform for my Lenovo test device. HP. So I've got all these different HPs. I believe this is the one that is running right now. And so then it will check either for the platform or if it matches the driver pack that OSDCloud thinks it should install, if you've got a folder named the same thing, it will run that as well. So on my flash drive, I've got several devices and models that I just keep this way because as I image more, I just throw them in here. I'll actually just let OSDCloud pull it down and extract it, and then in the C drivers folder, after it's done, I'll just drag that over to my flash drive, and then the next time that I run OSDCloud on the same model, it just pulls it right from the flash drive. This is where it will back up any drivers that it pulls down from the Microsoft catalog. It pulls it down on your C drivers, MS Update catalog drivers, and if you have room on your flash drive, you can tell it to back it up here. That way, later on, you don't have to download those again. They're already cached. So the next time you run it on the same model, it will check to see if it's in your cache or not. And if it is, it will pull it over to the drive and apply it instead of pulling it down from the internet. I try to do as much as possible so that you could save bandwidth. Even though it is a cloud product, I still wanted to be aware. So it is just, at least I have a slower connection at home, so being able to have it pull from my flash drive makes it possible for testing. And then you can see in the config files, I've got my scripts here. And then when I'm running my one process for my nonprofit, it backs up my normal one and then creates the other one. So like it's all PowerShell, so you can customize and do anything that you want really with this open source tool. Okay, so that, and it's still running. So yeah, all right. If you've got questions, feel free to reach out to me on Discord. Reach out to me on Discord or Twitter, and I usually try to get back to you pretty quick. So basically, over here, I started putting notes in at the beginning of the year for changes that I'm working on or building. So you can see anything that's changed, and I try to give just a little bit of instruction on how it works as well. Hey, look at that. So let's cut back over to here, and it just finished, but it should be shutting down momentarily, so we'll just wait for that, because I did tell it to shut down afterward. And then once it shuts down, I'll boot it back up and we can check out some logs, because that's always the fun part. Yeah. Yeah. Because I know the moment I start poking around in here, it's just going to shut down on me. Well, I'll poke around until it shuts down. It'll probably help it shut down faster. Alright, so Shift F10. Alright, did it load my CM trace? No. Okay. Alright, Notepad. Open. We're going to go in here, OSDCloud, logs. We're going to look at the setup complete. So you can see here in setup complete, it made sure that, oh, yep. All right, it shut down. All right, let me turn it back on now. So it did what it was supposed to do. All right, I'll boot this sucker back up. Oh, look at that. And it's not displaying, so let's go here, deactivate, activate. All right, so believe it or not, this was it needed a second TPM update. So it got the 2.0 the first time, but there was still a newer version. So now it's doing that second hop. So it was all automated. You didn't have to worry about it, but it did take 2 hops to get to it. But hopefully most of you aren't running such old hardware that this happens to you. All right, so here we go. And then we can start poking around. Just a moment. So, yeah, the experience is pretty decent for like having that shut down, and then you can ship it out to a user. So this was what it would normally come up with then when they turn it on. You probably wouldn't have it doing yet another TPM update. And if it's a really new device, then there's probably no TPM updates at all to worry about. So we'll Shift F10 this thing. All right. Nope. Notepad. All right. So we're going to go ahead and look at that file. Well, okay. So we're going to go first and look at, this is the specialized log. So we can see under specialize that it did do SP87753, which was a TPM update to get it from 1 to 2. And now let's go open and look at our setup complete file. All right, so the first thing it did in setup complete was run the updates for your definitions and platform for Defender. So along the way it keeps track, so that took like a minute and a half. And then it started Windows updates, about 2:10, so that was about 13 minutes to do these different 6 updates, which isn't bad. It's nice to have that done. It applied the CU, and that way you're completely up to date. Then it went ahead and tried to do 14 drivers, but see, we already did this, so I'm not sure why it detected that it wanted it. Anyway, it succeeded with errors, whatever, they're the drivers. Tools, so at this point it's running HPIA. It goes ahead and downloads it. Oh, yeah. So it exited with the reference file is not supported on this platform. Well, that's because this platform doesn't support Windows 11, and I'm trying to run Windows 11, and HPA is like, nope, we don't support that. All right, so then here, updating to TPM firmware. So it detected that it needed yet one more update, so which is the 94937. Then I got some lovely errors in PowerShell that I need to figure out and clean up. It doesn't actually impact anything, it's just ugly. So, all right, so then we get down here. TPM update was successful, it just requires a reboot. So basically my error is that it's trying to check which version is in the gallery, and it's having some issues trying to reach out to the gallery. I'll figure that out eventually, but since it's not actually breaking anything, it's pretty low priority. And then it sets the virtualization technology back to enabled, and then it's complete. Now is when it's running all of the custom stuff. So it's running the extra setup complete file that I create, or that you can create and put on your flash drive. So that is what is reaching out and running all these other things. So it's actually duplicating some things, like it's saying to run the updates again, but it's like, well, it's already done that, so it happens really quick the second time. So it's trying to do the drivers again. So actually, the running the drivers second time, we have a success. I'm trying to update store apps. That has not been working well. I still got some things to figure out there. I'm running a debloat script from the community. I am setting my my time zone based on my IP. So it changed it from the Pacific to Central Standard because that's where I live. And then it's setting the power plan back to balance. So the entire process in setup complete took 22 minutes, which felt like forever, but only 22 minutes. So that's not too bad. And then it shut down. So at that point, you would then box it up, ship it to your user, and away they go. And they would get to this point. So I will go ahead and run through Ubi quick, and you can see what customizations were done. And so if you want, there's lots of ways to accomplish your goals here. You can use a completely custom WIM, which would have all these things in there. For me, I've decided to do it through setup complete and call different scripts and leave the WIM or the ESD file from Microsoft Vanilla, and then apply all the changes afterward. So this is pretty extensible in how you would want to reach your goals, whether through doing the work ahead of time or having it happen live here. I mean, it's always nice to have a fully updated. I mean, you saw from Windows updates you could have saved like 13 minutes, which is something, but like if you're just setting this up for yourselves and not having to like worry about an SLA for time, like does it really matter? So it just depends on where you want to build your time. Do you want to like take time to optimize the WIM that you're installing, or do you want to take time to just have it take longer during the build process? So for me, I'm just doing it during the build process. Yep. Might take a few minutes. Hopefully it won't. Let's see. Look at that. We're at the 57-minute mark. So this whole thing has been less than an hour, which is cool. So I think that's actually pretty decent. I talked for a while before even starting it. So, but having a device, having the BIOS updated, TPM updated, BIOS settings set, OS installed, OS patched, drivers installed and updated, all within an hour, that's pretty reasonable. And it's all open source, and you can customize it to do whatever you want. It's very extensible. It's a pretty amazing solution that David Segura came up with, and I'm just glad that I can be a part of adding enhancements to that. Oh, we're almost there. Ah, look at that. All right. So in my customized, people are gonna be like, "Oh, you moved the start button." It's like, yeah, I did that because that's where I like it. I know other people prefer middle, but I like the left, so I set it there. So sue me. All right. I then also have a file that gets dropped on the desktop for. I clean out all the other stuff. These are being donated, and I just don't want all those other things there. Plus, we get rid of a bunch of the apps so that there's just less updates that need to happen. Let's go ahead, check settings. It'll be interesting to see if this activated, because it is an older model. Sometimes I have problems with these getting activated. Hey, it is activated. Look at that. Windows 11 Pro with the active digital license. Gotta love that. All right, and now we'll check Windows Update. We'll check that. I also like to just go in here. I gotta find how to do this in PowerShell just to be done with it, but I like doing that. It looks like we're all the way up to date other than that, which is no surprise since we ran updates during setup complete. The one thing that I still want to figure out is the store, because this is just ugly now of how many updates need to come through here. So if I could somehow figure out how to trigger this during setup complete, that would be pretty neat. My guess, oh, there's my little guy coming to visit me. Hey, buddy. Yeah. All right. Say bye-bye. Okay. So I think that's kind of the end of this demo. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you were entertained. If you have any questions about OSD Cloud, let me know. Thanks.